Welcome to the Golfish podcast. I'm your host, Amy Goodman. Every week on the show, we're going to bring you fascinating interviews with the families, caddies, and coaches of the PGA, LPGA, Champions Tour, and beyond. This week, we have an amazing PGA caddy, Kenny Harms, whose past players have included Gary Player, Michelle Wie, Lee Trevino, and for the past 11 years, Kevin Na. You may know him from his recent win on the PGA Tour at the Charles Schwab, and if you don't, I can't wait for you to hear more about it in this week's episode. Let's get started. So, hey, Kenny, how are you today?
I'm amazing.
I am so excited for you to be here with me today.
I'm excited to be here with you today.
Is the weather sunny in Florida?
It is beautiful right now. Had a little rain earlier, but nice and hot and 92 degrees and humid.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah. A little different than Cincinnati. We have a very nice stretch of no rain right now, so I'm taking it, but it's only about 75, which is perfect for up here.
That's a beautiful, nice summer day almost.
Yes, exactly. So for those of our listeners that are living under a rock and may not know who you are after all of your fame over the past couple of weeks, tell us about who you are and anything that you want to share with the audience.
I'm Kenny Harms. I grew up in Paramus, New Jersey, and out of college, Westchester University, I moved down to Florida. Actually, I was an assistant pro for a year and then moved down to Florida. Long story short, got into caddying on the LPGA Tour, was there for three and a half years, left the LPGA Tour, and went to the PGA Tour where I met Hubert Green, and then Hubert Green turned into Hale Irwin, who turned into Kevin Na, and here we are now. Been living here in Orlando at Lake Nona since 1996.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is a big shift from the East Coast.
Well, it's still East Coast, but Southeast Coast.
Southeast Coast. Warmer East Coast.
Southeast Coast. I'm an East Coast guy. I was married once. My ex-wife was from California. So.
Oh, okay.
We wound up, I was living in Fort Myers at the time, and we wound up settling here in Orlando because she played the LPGA Tour, so we needed a great airport to get in and out of.
Oh, yeah.
So, needless to say, we found Lake Nona. I actually found Lake Nona in 1991 and suggested we come up here and look here in Isleworth. We went over to Isleworth and really did not like it there and came over here and just fell in love with the place and been here ever since.
That's awesome. So it sounds like I'll need to make a trip down there to check it out.
Oh, yeah. Everybody should. Everybody. This is like one of the most booming places in the whole country. We've got the whole medical center going on here. The United States Tennis Association moved down here 2 years ago. 105 courts. Burnham Institute. I mean, everybody's moving here. KPMG just moved their whole training facility here, which should open mid next year.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's a booming area.
Do you get commission for selling it?
Yeah, I probably should, considering
right?
how many houses I've sold in here and how many members I brought in here.
Exactly.
Yeah, I didn't broker that. You know what? As great of a negotiator as it is, I didn't look at the place that I lived to negotiate.
Right.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you started on the LPGA and went to the PGA, and you were caddying on the Champions at one point too, correct? Yes,
when I got Hubert, he was 48, so. It was 2 years out there, and then he went to the Champions Tour and was with him for 4 years. And then Hale Irwin hired me away from Hubert in 2001, and then Kevin hired me away from Hale in the end of 2008.
That's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about that because you have caddied for some of golf's best. Obviously, Hubert Green, you're talking about Hale Irwin, Kevin Na, obviously, Gary Player, Lee Trevino, Jan Stevenson, Michelle Wie, and you've been with Kevin for 11 years. So tell us about that transition because I'm coming from an HR background and I'm going to go out on a limb and say there isn't like an Indeed for caddies or how do they find you guys?
Well, usually word of mouth. If a player gets open, they're going to start contacting, or their agents are going to start contacting and finding out what caddies are available, or they're going to go and steal somebody else's caddy. Okay. So it's kind of one of those things. It is what it is. Hubert, Hale stole me away from Hubert, and then Kevin stole me away from Hale. So, it's probably the toughest thing I've ever did was literally leave another player to go work. Like leaving Hubert was not easy. And then leaving Hale was not easy at all. But, it all worked out. I made the right decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're transitioning between players, I mean, when you caddied for Gary Player and Michelle Wie, and was that like just one-off things? Because it doesn't sound like you were with them for an extended period of time, because you've spent so much time with Hubert, Hale, and obviously 11 years with Kevin.
Right. Now, when I worked for Hubert, he played almost every week. So if I did have an off week, I would go out and be with Emily and watch her play on the LPGA, or I'd caddy for her, or I would, caddy for Vicky Getz a couple times, who we were great friends with. But then when I started working for Hale, he played a very limited schedule. I think he played 22 to 24 events, and so I had a lot of off weeks, and he didn't mind me working for other players. So, if I was, I got divorced in 04. So from 04 to 08, I worked for Raymond Floyd for 5 or 6 weeks. Aaron Baddeley for 3 weeks, Michelle Wie for 4 weeks, Lee Trevino for a week, Gary Player promised me to work the Masters, and unfortunately that didn't transpire.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah, but I wound up working for Raymond Floyd. Was my first in 06 at the Masters. That was a pretty good week. It was actually 3 weeks in a row. So I worked for Raymond at the Masters. I got home to Orlando. My buddy Steve Holka called me up, had me a job for Hilton Head, because I was going to go, Masters, Hilton Head, and then Hale was playing at the Legends in Savannah the next week. So, but anyway, long story short, Raymond missed the cut. I went home. Steve Holka called me up. I told him I wasn't coming out. Thanks, but no thanks. And then Aaron Baddeley literally called me like 15 minutes later, and I convinced me to come. And
oh my goodness,
that was Easter weekend. And I got on the computer and I looked at his stats, and I said, he hasn't been playing very well. I'll probably be home this weekend. Well, turned out he wound up winning the golf tournament. So. It's funny how things work.
It's a good story, though. It all works out.
It's a great story. We've become great friends ever since. I've always texting him, congratulating on him and his wins, and he texted me 2 weeks. We also have a love of supercars too. He's got a pretty cool old Mustang that was I forget what the name of it. Cage was the guy that was driving the car. Anyway, long story short. We were going back and forth with the cars and stuff. So,
well,
yeah,
obviously you've got to talk about the cars then. So we'll just jump right in there. So you were very humble about your intro. So a couple of weeks ago, Kevin won and promptly turned over a very shiny new car to you.
Yeah, it's a long story. We were doing some advertising and media work for the new tournament, the Charles Schwab Challenge, and about 6 weeks prior to that, they had a picture with the car, how they were giving it to the way to the winner, and we were doing some promo work for that. So I posted on my Instagram account, Kevin, you really wouldn't look good in this car, but I would. The blue matches my blue eyes, and something like that. Joking around. So on Monday, we were all out at the Texas game, the week of the tournament, the Charles Schwab Challenge, and ran into the guy from Charles Schwab, and they loved my post and this and that. And so long story short, Tuesday morning, we were out playing a 9-hole practice round, and right off the 10th tee, we were going to play the back 9. Right off the 10th tee is the car, and I kind of looked over at the car, and I just said to Kevin, and he says, "Hey, when we win this week, you're going to give me that car, right?" He kind of looked over, he kind of looked at me, looked at the car, and goes, right in front of everybody, "Yeah, if I win, I'll give you the car." So, and
is that when you posted on Instagram and said Kevin's going to win this week?
Yes. So I posted on Instagram that he was going to. I just had, how you have these feelings? I had the feeling that he was going to win, and I never brought it up after that post. I never talked about it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and then obviously the history is that he. After he makes the winning putt, wins by 4, he turns around and he points to the car and said, "That's yours." And
yeah. Oh, I was watching. Don't worry.
Yeah. Well, the whole world is.
The whole world was watching, and everyone was freaking out like, "Oh my God, he really did it. It was awesome." Well, then, I read another article as I was researching for the podcast today, and it said you also received a Lexus.
Yeah. So I got a 1-year lease on a Lexus. So when Kevin handed me the keys, in front of all the media, taking all the pictures, I said to him, I said, hey, listen, and I pointed over to that Lexus. I said, listen, I just got a 1-year lease to this Lexus. In exchange, I'm going to give Kevin the lease to the Lexus. So I gave him the lease to the Lexus.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So he's going to give it to his parents to drive. And
that's perfect. You know what? The media did not talk about that. I never saw that anywhere. So we're getting the whole story.
Yeah.
I love it. So has it been delivered yet?
No, actually, they're literally just texting with the guys today. They had to do the paperwork for the title, so the title will come to me, and then I'm leaving on Saturday for Pebble Beach. So I told them if you couldn't get it here by Friday, that just send it 2.5 weeks later, because we're going from Pebble to the Korean Open, and then I'll fly back to Orlando, and then I'll take delivery of it.
That's a great problem to have, Kenny. I mean, really.
Yes. So I've been cleaning out the third stall of my garage because I have a lot of storage stuff there. So me and my dad, I went down to Fort Myers and I picked up my dad 2 days ago and brought him up here. So we're doing some cleaning, and not that it's dirty. It's just there's a lot of storage.
You need somewhere to keep it.
Exactly. It's funny. One of the other cars will go outside if to make room for that.
To make room for that one.
Oh, yes.
That's awesome. So, obviously you have been in golf a long time at Westchester University. I believe you played. Is that right?
Yeah. I was not very good, to be honest. I was the 5th or 6th man on the team. I think my scoring average was like 83. I wrestled my whole life. I didn't start playing golf until college. So,
okay.
And I wrestled all since I think I was 7 years old, all the way through till I was 23.
Oh, wow.
But I wound up meeting a guy that was, when I first went to school, I was so small anyway. I didn't get recruited for wrestling. So I went to a 2-year school in North Carolina. And one of the guys on the golf team I became friends with. And he is the one that convinced me to come out and practice and play with him. So I got hooked on it, 4 years prior to that, because I took a year off and I coached my high school wrestling team to give back. And then I went to Westchester for my last 2 years, and I went out for the golf team, and luckily I think there was 7 guys on the golf team. So every once in a while I would get to travel. And I think I played in 4 or 5 events in those 2 years, but fell in love with the sport. And when I got done, I wound up getting assistant's job at the golf course we practiced at, White Manor Country Club. A guy named Les Kaplan, who owned Philadelphia Outdoor, convinced me to do it. And he says, if you don't like it after a year, you can come work for me. So I said, that sounds great, because I really, to be honest, I wasn't sure what I was going to do out of college. So I worked on my game like 4 or 5 hours a day, and got up to down to a +1, and went down to Florida and played in a couple events, shot my 72, 73 and didn't cash, and said, these guys were shooting like 64, 65. And
right.
I wound up meeting a guy that was caddying on the tour, and we got a place, and we were caddying at this club. And until I became, back to my assistant's job, and I went out to the senior tour at the time. He was caddying on the senior tour in the LPGA. Well, he didn't get a job on the senior tour, so he went over to the LPGA at Wycliffe, and he got the last job in the parking lot. And I wound up not getting a job, but I wound up meeting a girl that forgot to sign up to the tournament that Saturday. Her name was Lynn Connolly, and I worked for her the following week. And we finished 9th or 10th. And then she offered me the job to go to Hawaii for 2 weeks and in San Diego.
Oh,
so I took it. I called the head pro back and told him I wasn't coming back until that date. Promised him I'd come back, and we finished 2nd in San Diego. And I think I made $2,500 for the week, and I was making $350 a week as an assistant pro. So I called up my dad, and my dad's like, go see the world for a year.
Heck
so
yeah.
I decided to do that. And, here we are 29 years later.
That's incredible. That is so incredible. So you've played, or you've caddied, like you said, with the PGA, LPGA, and Champions Tour. What are the biggest differences between those tours from a caddy or a player perspective?
Well, obviously money.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more of a business on the PGA Tour. When I started on the LPGA Tour, we were, the caddies all hung together, a lot of the players. It was like a big family. more so than the PGA Tour. The PGA Tour is a family, but it's more got its little cliques of players and stuff like that. It's something when I decided, I think it was at the end of the first year of caddying, because I was doing it just to see the country. I spent like every single dollar I made that year, except I think I paid off $2,000 in credit card debt that I had. And I think I had like $1,200 in my bank account when I got done with the season. And at the end of that year, I met Jan Stevenson in Australia, and she offered me the job. And that's when I decided to take the profession seriously.
Yeah, absolutely.
At that point, I was actually planning to go back to being an assistant pro. And when I got that job, it was 2.5 years with her. And then I left to go to the PGA Tour. I had a buddy working for John Mahaffey on the PGA Tour, and went to San Diego and wound up meeting Hubert Green in that parking lot that week. And I worked for him the next week in Vegas, and that's when he offered me the job.
So is that, when you talk about meeting these players in the parking lots and offering to caddy for them, is that something that still happens on any of the tours, like with the web.com or any of them, or is that kind of everyone has it more figured out now?
Well, the PGA Tour is impossible to get a job. I mean, the guys that are in the parking lot are trying to get jobs for that week or the following week, or if somebody gets fired that Sunday, they might show up, but that rarely happens anymore.
Got it.
I think the web.com, I've only caddied one event in a rehab start for Kevin in 2013 when he took 6 months off. So I would think that the web.com is probably the easiest to get a job. And when I get 100 messages on Instagram, how to become a caddy, or where to caddy, I mean, it's crazy. It's like every week I get 10 guys, and I tell them all the same. I said, your best bet is the web.com, and you might spend 4 weeks, because nobody's going to hire somebody they don't know.
Right.
So you might spend 4 weeks working the pro-ams, working for TV, until, you get the opportunity where somebody's going to hire you and feels comfortable with you. Mm-hmm. So you're going to spend a lot of money doing that, because I would bet that 60% of the caddies on the web.com are breaking even.
Wow.
The other ones are losing money. Obviously, there's more money on the ladies tour. I just saw that Lee Six, I think, was her last name. I guess she goes by Lee Six. She was the first time. I'm not sure, but I heard it was $1 million she won for first place.
Isn't that the first time that it's broken $1 million?
I think, yeah, exactly. So, that caddy, if he's making 10%, which he should, he made $100,000, which, on the web.com, I think first place might be 25,000. You might be
okay.
250, about 100,000. So you're making 10 to 12 grand.
Yeah.
So it's hard to make a living. So it's not for everybody, the traveling, and, the Champions Tour was awesome. To get to that, let's talk about that. There's no cuts except for the majors, so your schedule. It's easy. It's easy to, okay, I'm going to be working the next 3 weeks. I'm buying all my tickets in advance. I don't have to worry about missing a cut like on the PGA Tour, and then buy a last minute ticket, which is $600 or $700 these days. And it's out there is more like a family as well, because you only got 78 guys playing every week. So, and I think there's 25 or 26 events. Very easy to a tour to caddy on. But again, you're playing for 20% of the money that they're playing for on the PGA Tour.
Right.
So
yeah, that's a big difference.
Oh, it's a huge difference. So, unless you have a top 10 player, you're really not making a significant amount of money to make a great living.
Okay.
And, you look at the PGA Tour, and I think there's 100 guys making $1 million every year. So, if you factor in you're making 10% of your salary, you're probably making $120,000, but you're probably spending, $40,000 to $50,000 traveling, unless you're staying with guys and staying in a hotel room with somebody, sharing a rental car. Then you can break it down, and maybe you can do it for $1,000 a week. Obviously not Hawaii and in the big cities, but so people don't really, the whole traveling thing is people don't understand how difficult it is. The other thing that people don't realize is that we're self-employed. So we pay our own health insurance. We have to contribute to our own retirement. So when you factor in, okay, so I made 120, not saying that I made, let's just say the caddy makes 125,000. You know, they're spending, let's just say they're sharing it. They're only spending 30. So now they're down to 90. You know, they're probably, if they're my age, you're probably spending $7,000 or $8,000 a year in health insurance.
Right.
And then you're putting, you know, you're probably putting the max into your SEP IRA that you can, and that could be another 20,000. So now let's just say you're down to 70,000. You're paying 25% or 30% on taxes on that. That's not a lot of money.
Right. So you've been very vocal and engaged in the Association of Professional Tour Caddies. And
Yes.
there's been a lot of conversation about that. I know that there was a lawsuit against the PGA back in 2015. It was thrown out in 2016 that talked about sponsorships. And when you were interviewed by a lot of outlets, you were talking about this very same thing, which is the healthcare, the retirement. These guys on the tours, these ladies on the tours aren't making it. But I mean, everyone, like, we're all thinking, oh, it's this glamorous lifestyle and they get to travel the world and they have all these sponsors. So tell me about, like, kind of where that's going now, where we are. It's been a few years since there's really been any talk on that. What's your thought there, and how can we as an audience understand and help move that forward?
Well, you know, we truly believe, I mean, I talked to, before I put my name on the top of the lawsuit along with Mike Hicks, I did my due diligence on talking to many lawyers around the country about the lawsuit. And, you know, no one said we were going to lose. But we did lose. And then we filed an appeal and we lost again. And, you know, it brought a lot of good to the reason why we sued. And, you know, the tour since then has come a long way. They raised our 2,000 stipend for health insurance to $7,500 now.
And it was originally what can you remind me, 2,000? It
was $2,000, and it's been $2,000 for close to 20 years, 15 to 20 years. It never raised. So when health insurance costs were skyrocketing, we still had $2,000. So, you know, we have a new commissioner now, and the relationship has gotten tremendously better. I think it's stronger than it's ever been. You know, obviously there's you know, the cost of insurance are still going up, but you know, with getting $7,500, I mean, I know that what I've done in the last 7 years, I had to raise my deductible from $1,000 to $10,000 to keep my rates down under $600 a month. So. Yeah, it's otherwise it'd have been like double that, $1,300, I think, right now if I had a $1,000 deductible. But anyway, and I'm not. It is what it is. I decided to do this. This is what I decided. But you know, my whole thing is to make everything better for the caddies coming down the road. You know, and when I started caddying, there was no health insurance. We were lucky to even get, you know, a coupon for the concession stint on the LPGA tour. And now we've pretty much got catered breakfast every single week, catered lunch every single week, snacks when we get done. The tournaments and the tournament directors have come so far in the last 30 years, obviously. And don't get me wrong, it's and I commend everybody because everybody's getting better. The tournament directors now have a relationship. Our president, Staj, has done so much good work in the last 2 to 3 years. He's literally working like 20 to 30 hours a week for us, and on top of caddying.
That's incredible.
And things are improving 100% almost every year. And I think we were respected a little bit more because we did, you know, fight for something we believed in. Even though we lost, you know, I think that brought, you know, a lot of attention to caddies and you know, and how difficult it is. And it's this whole thing was not for the guys, the Joe LaCavas and the Bones and the guys that are making the big money. This was all done for the guys that were losing money, that, you know, had a family at home, that couldn't afford the health insurance for their family of 4 or 5 or whatever it is. So it's getting better. Obviously, you know, we've got the raise of $5,500 towards our health insurance, and that should pretty much cover most every single person that's an individual, obviously it's not going to cover the families, because a couple of guys that have 2 or 3 kids, they're spending, $20,000 to $22,000 a year in health insurance. So
Right. Yeah, I work for a local real estate company, and we have the same struggles. All of our realtors are 1099s.
Yeah.
So this is something that is definitely near and dear to our heart, from my professional life too, just because it's such a struggle. And with rising insurance costs, I mean, it's just crippling people and making people make decisions that goes against their passion and goes to a bottom line. And it's so unfortunate because you lose a lot of great people. I would imagine in your industry, just like we do in ours.
Yeah. 100%. There's obviously mothers of the husbands of the kids at home that are taking jobs that have health insurance, and they might not be making a lot of money, but what they're getting in benefits, is going to make them survive while their husband's out trying to take care of their family. So
yeah, absolutely. So I want to go back to something you mentioned before too, because I'll be honest, this is probably my naivete. I was under the impression that the players paid for their caddies to get where they were going for the tournaments. So that is something that that the caddy individually handles, or is that like on a caddy by caddy basis or a team by team basis?
Yeah, it depends. It depends on if you're traveling in the United States. So I would say 99.9% of the caddies that are traveling in the United States pay for all of their travel expenses.
Okay.
I don't know anyone that's player is paying all the travel expenses on the road. Now we do get a salary, which is paid for the weeks that we work, not for the weeks that we don't work. So if we work 28 weeks and we're, let's just say, getting $1,500 a week salary, that should cover 90% of the tournaments. Obviously when you fly to Hawaii, it's going to be,
it's a little different.
That's about a $4,000 a week.
Yeah.
So, and if you can buy your tickets in advance and you can stay with somebody, then you're going to cut it down, obviously. And then, you have the weeks where you've got your car and you're able to stay with friends, and, you might be able to save some money. And now you've got Airbnb where you can get 4 or 5 guys in a house. And
absolutely.
So there's definitely some ways, but, when I travel overseas, Kevin picks up all my expenses except my food. And if I want to go out and, have a glass of wine or 2, then I'll pick that up. But, he's been really good to me. And I negotiated that right from the beginning, with all of my players. Cause, when a player goes overseas, they're usually, unless it's a PGA Tour tournament, they are going over for a sponsor that's paying them. So their agents can negotiate a hotel room and a business class ticket for the caddy. And when you travel there, you're traveling with your player. So all the transportation is paid. So
makes sense.
You just got to be a good negotiator when you take the job.
Yeah, absolutely. So you and Kevin have been together for 11 years. How have you two continued to make that partnership be successful?
That's a great question. And it's changed over the years. When I first started working for Kevin, it was myself, and Kevin hired a manager to travel with us.
Okay.
So it was the 3 of us. We traveled everywhere together. We were in the same hotels. Me and Moto stayed in one room, and then Kevin was in the other room. I would drive the courtesy car. So I didn't mind, because I was picking up like one of the 3 hotel rooms, and then Kevin would pick up the rest, but I didn't have to rent a car. We flew everywhere. And then, 3 years later, Kevin made enough money where he could afford NetJet. So he'd get some hours, and, we would probably maybe fly in privately 5 times a year. He was pretty smart about it. We never took it, from East Coast to West Coast or West Coast to East Coast. We only used it on the difficult tournaments to get to.
Got it.
So that, because he hates stopping. He wants to fly nonstop everywhere. So, and I don't blame him when you've been as successful as he has in his life. So things have changed. So, and then he got married, and Moto went back to Japan, and then it was, Kevin was traveling with his wife. So Now we weren't together as much as we used to be. We'd go to dinners and stuff, but him and his wife would go back to the hotel. And then Sophia came. That'd be 3 years in September. So then, it's always been changing. But I've been very fortunate. I don't know how this has lasted this long, but in 29 years of caddying, I've never been fired.
That's amazing. And then you're going to have another little. Kevin has another little one coming too.
Oh yeah, baby boy! Can't wait.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I hope, and I'm sure he's going to be just as amazing as Sophia is, because Sophia melts everybody's hearts.
It was
She's
so
cute.
Adorable. It was so cute when you were coming off 18 at the Charles Schwab and you're carrying the bag and she just like raises her arms for you to carry. I was like, I can't even handle this right now. That is adorable. She is so stinking cute.
Yeah, she is. So I don't have any children, so and I don't want to say that Kevin's like my son, because he's not. We're more like brothers. But when I first started working for him, it was a little challenging, to be honest. Different culture, working for Americans my whole life. Don't get me wrong, he's been over in the States since he was 7, 8 years old, and he's more Americanized than the other Korean players. Some of them barely speak any English, and they're learning, but so it's always been evolving. The relationship's always been evolving. And we're extremely close. I mean, he's, birthday parties, I'll fly out to Vegas, and I hate to say this, but we love each other, so it's easy. And I, when I worked for Hale would be like, he had his own jet, so he would fly home Sunday night and he'd come back Wednesday night, play the Thursday Pro-Am. He barely ever practiced, so relationships are sometimes really easy and sometimes they're difficult. And I think that how we've survived so long, because I think we're like down to maybe there might be 2 or 3 more player caddy relationships that have lasted longer than us.
Right.
Which is, if there was a lot of betting people, they would have never bet that on us lasting as long as we have. Just because Kevin went through a lot of caddies his first 4 years on tour.
Didn't Michelle go through a lot of caddies except for you too? Maybe it's you. You're just like the magic touch.
Michelle. Well, Michelle. I only worked for Michelle on off weeks from Hale, so it wasn't like I worked for her for 4 events though. And she was awesome to work for. I'm a huge fan of Michelle's. I'm a huge fan of the LPGA's. I just love golf and everybody that plays it, and they're great people. But I don't know. I don't know if it's me. I don't know if I've just been very blessed on having great bosses.
That always helps.
But I took a lot of psychology classes, mental training classes in college, and that's what caddying is all about. It's all about psychology.
Yeah.
I mean, granted that anybody could add and subtract and do numbers. There's an art to reading greens. Pulling the right clubs, not being, scared to be wrong is one of the biggest key points of being a great caddy. But, being, in my opinion, I think the greatest caddies are the greatest psychologists. The best ones on tour are the best psychologists. And there's a lot of psychology involved in everyday life and, dealing with your boss and, then dealing with the family and everybody else that's involved. So
yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of work to it, but I enjoy it.
So you're talking about the work that goes into it. So let's dive into that. So another thing I'm really interested in is you are obviously in Florida. He's in Vegas. So how do you two prepare during the season, during the off season? What does that look like, being on different coasts? And I mean, are you guys training together from like a workout standpoint, a daily routine standpoint? Tell me what that life is like.
When I first started working for Kevin, his family wasn't big believers in working out, and I pushed and pushed and pushed, and I really didn't get anywhere until Kevin got hurt in 2013, and then he went back to Korea for 5 months and rehabbed, worked with trainers, and got into, finally working out. Unfortunately, we don't work out together. We kind of did a little bit, but with now Kevin having a family and trying to figure out the time and the workout and stuff like that, the PGA Tour has two trailers, a physio trailer and a workout trailer. So, Kevin will do that, and then he does some band stuff back in the room. So I don't ever see him in the gym. So when it comes to the training aspect of the physical training aspect, I that's like my sanctuary is the gym. I love going there. It's a stress reliever. I can go there every single day for, usually about an hour when I'm on the road, because obviously there's not that much time in the day. And then there's going to be some days I don't get to the gym at all just because of rain delays and stuff like that and eating. And but when I'm home in the off season, it's every single day.
What type of training do you do? Like, is it strength all weight training? Okay.
It's all strength training. It's I do some cardio, but it's all body weight exercises. So I don't run anymore. Every once in a while, I'll get on a bike, but to me, that's boring. I'd rather do. I've got a cycle that I do: 25 pull-ups, 50 push-ups, 100 squats, sets of 3. So by the time you get done with it, it's about 15 minutes. You're literally dripping sweat. Your heart's going a million miles an hour. And if I was to run, I'd just do sprints, just for the cardio. But that's about it. It's all weightlifting, and it's high rep. I'm not a bodybuilder. I want to stay. I want to stay healthy. I don't want to get hurt. I've made that mistake once or twice in my life, going heavy and having some back issues, but. And I change it up all the time. It could be 2 sets of 25 one day. It could start off with 15, reps of 15, then raising the weight 12, then raising the weight 10, then raising the weight and trying to get as many as I can. I'm always just changing. But it's like I go there. I don't have headphones in. I'll talk with people. I'm just.
Because you have to recruit more people to come down there and live with you.
Yeah, exactly right.
You have to be talking to all your people.
I got to talk to all my people. So I don't know. I just love it. I love eating whatever I want to eat, and that's why I work out so hard. I love pizza. Good pizza though.
Tell us about your pizza fascination. I love your videos and your, a lot of times you don't even wait until you're home. It's like you're walking to the car and grabbing a slice and telling us all how it is. So how did you get started doing that?
I grew up, it was my favorite food growing up in New Jersey. And we have the greatest pizza, New York, New Jersey. And I would say probably, there's a small little town in Connecticut. That's not a small town; it's a city that I think has the best pizza in the world. So I just decided. I don't even know why. I decided to just take pictures. And I wasn't doing videos. At first, it was just a picture of it, and I'd rate it, and then I was with somebody, and the guy goes, "Give me the phone, and I'll video you." And then I started videoing the pizza and eating it, and just throwing it down. And then I didn't even realize Saj, my president, goes, "Man, my favorite part is when you throw the pizza down." I'm like, I went back and I looked, I'm like, I didn't even realize I was throwing down the pizza. So it's just been, I think, about a year and a half or 2 years. And then the funniest part is that all of a sudden I get these messages, "Oh, you're not very good at that." The president, I'm like, who's the president? I had no idea. So I was staying with my cousins, my uncle and my cousins in New Jersey. And they're the ones that told me about Barstool Sports. So I started following Barstool Sports, but I didn't know that the president was the guy that was doing the pizza reviews until somebody pointed it out. And then you got to download the One Bite app. So I downloaded the One Bite app, and that's where I started getting all the places to go. That and Yelp. Everywhere I go, I try to find the best places and hit up one or two of them, and then do my pizza reviews.
Oh, that's
something.
So funny.
I love red wine.
Yes, I've seen that too. Too.
Yeah. So I kind of, when I come home, it's always red wine. When I'm on the road, if there's no wine, then I'll grab a Coke and have a slice of pizza. And when I was in New York, I think I went 6 of the 7 days, or did I go all 7? I think I might have missed one day. And I just can't get enough. I literally, after we missed a cut on Saturday, I drove to Brooklyn.
Oh, that's
no, that was Friday. Friday night, we drove to Brooklyn. Me and JJ Spawn's caddy Zeke. I convinced him to come with me. So we drive to this place called La Fara. That's got a 9.4 rating from the president. We get there and it's closed. I said, you got to be kidding me.
Oh, no.
So I got on the app again, and then there's a 9.3 about 10 minutes away. So we drive to that one. There's a 4-hour wait for takeout. So this isn't going too well. So then I found another one called Williamsburg Pizza, which was great. I think it was like an 8.7, and then Slice, which was like a 9. It was like an 8.7 also. But two of the best slices I got. So then Sunday I drove in to see my cousin who's living in the city, going to the university there, and we went to John's of Bleecker, and it was the best pizza I've ever had. So
that's awesome.
We did a video of that, and so I mean, it's just one of those things. I love when people make fun of me or tell me I'm not any good, because every time it's like, yeah, I know. President's the best. You don't need to tell me that.
Yeah,
I know that.
Got it.
I got it. I enjoy
no
it.
taken.
And I said, if you don't want to follow me, you don't have to follow me.
Right.
So
like if that's the issue, like you're good to go, dude.
Yeah, I'm good. It's all right. I'm good with myself.
So when you're not eating pizza and drinking red wine when you're traveling at these events, what are the events like? What is the experience like for a caddy? Like, what do you do? How early do you have to be there? What is the feel for you? And I mean, it might be a little different because you've been doing this so long, so nothing's like as surprising anymore. But when you're walking onto like the practice range or the practice green in the morning, what does it feel like? What is the atmosphere like? I
think it's, depending on where we're at, it's been 29 years, so I don't really get too excited for it. I honestly, I don't. I mean, there's certain tournaments that I get excited for. I get excited for the Phoenix Open because I love all the people. It's people watching to it. The greatest. I mean, there's so many drunk people falling over, and I mean, it's hysterical. And obviously, Augusta National is so special. One of my favorites is the Open Championship, but going overseas this year, it's going to be in Ireland. So I can't wait. I love Ireland. The U.S. Open was always one of my favorites. It's kind of gone downhill the way that the USGA has been setting up the golf courses and all the mistakes that they've made. And, hopefully we've got a new guy this year. So hopefully they won't mess up Pebble. It's hard to mess up Pebble. So I'm thinking that,
this will be a good, safe year for them then.
I'm thinking that, the USGA is going to make the U.S. Open great again. I'm hoping. So U.S. Open normally, PGA, going overseas, going to new places is always exciting to me because I love going to new places and exploring at night and going into the cities. I'm a city guy. I love the energy of the cities. Finding great places to eat. But when getting onto a golf course, it's like when you first get there, the first thing you do is you go get your yardage book. You go out and you walk the golf course, especially if you haven't seen it before. And if you haven't seen it before, it's going to take you 3 or 4 hours to get to know it. So, where to hit it, where not to hit it, all your numbers. The yardage books are so great these days that you don't really have to do that much work except around the greens or diagram the greens a little bit. And then, it's, you wait for your player to show up and you go to practice. And, our normal routine is 9 holes on Tuesday, play the Wednesday Pro-Am, and then start on Thursday. And usually I walk the golf course, but, this year at Colonial, I didn't walk the golf course, so we won. So I'm going to go stick with that one.
Right? No more walking the golf course. So
no more walking the golf course.
When you're talking about scouting the course for 3 to 4 hours, do you go with other caddies? Do you walk it by yourself? Is this like a very zen, quiet moment? Like everybody leave me alone. I'm doing my thing.
Yeah, I like doing it by myself, to be honest, unless there's a guy that asks me, then of course I'll always say yes, because but I like moving at my own pace. So if like, let's say, I went to Dallas and we did the golf course at Dallas, I'll walk that in like 35 to 40 minutes because I know everything there is to know. I already have everything diagrammed. I'm just going to see and make sure the conditions, see what the rough is like, around the greens are like, make sure there's no extra new bunkers or tee boxes. We're playing the same golf course, and just make sure that everything is correct. So that's pretty simple. But when I'm at a new golf course, I always do it by myself because I don't want to talk because a lot of guys will start talking and you might miss something. So, so I do my own thing, and and sometimes I might even actually put some earphones in so nobody bothers me. But then
They kind of get
the only
it.
problem with that is you might get hit in the head with a golf ball if you're not paying attention.
That could be a problem. Yeah, you don't want to do that.
That could be a serious issue. Yeah.
So, when you come off the course, so you have either a really great day or kind of a really crappy day. How do you come back from that? How do you unwind and forget about a bad day, or how do you celebrate a good day, but still, and it's not a Sunday, right? So how do you like come back the next day refreshed, like, okay, we got this?
I try not to get up or down on any day. To be honest, because nobody gets paid until Sunday night anyway. So you don't really get all excited because your guy, who knows, your guy might shoot 78 today. And then you're like, oh, you get so hyped up for it. And I think that, the one thing you want to do as caddying is you don't want to show a lot of emotion. The guy, why don't you give him a little fist bump if that's what you do with your player or whatever. But we don't even do that. We might do that once or twice, unless something really special happens. Then I'll give him a little love. But I want him being at the same level while he's playing golf. I don't want him going highs and lows. And so getting off the golf course, whether it's a good day or a bad day, I don't want to let that affect my day and affect my mood. And don't get me wrong, it's not that easy to do some days, especially when you have a really bad day. And like, let's say you shoot 7 or 8 over, you got no chance of even making the cut. So, I'll go and, I'll go right to I'll probably go back to the room, or I'll go right to the gym and work out and, get my mind on other things in life. And I'm not one of the caddies that loves to go and hang out at the bar and talk about everybody's game, because I really don't care about anybody else's game.
Yeah, you're focused on what matters to you.
What matters to me. And I don't mean with my friends, if I'm with a friend or one of my buddies, but I'll even say in a conversation, I said, guys, let's leave the golf on the golf course and let's talk about real life and other things, because there's more to life than golf.
There is?
So yeah. Pizza and red wine.
And
really
exactly.
Good burgers and sweet potato fries. My other downfall.
Coca-Cola.
So I'm trying to stay away from the Coca-Cola, but when I gotta have pizza, sometimes Chinese food, I have to have a little Coca-Cola too.
Right. I gave up pop in August, so I sympathize.
Good for you.
Good
for you. Yeah.
That's funny.
So. Yeah, it's like, you try to stay even and
is Kevin pretty even? No, he's a lot better. Honestly, it's like I even told him, I said the last 2 times he's won, he's shown this calmness to him that, all the great players have. When I worked for Hubert, when I worked for Hale, they were, they knew the task at hand, and they were pretty level the whole time they were playing. And Kevin, the last 2, I told him, I said, dude, man, you're like a Hall of Famer out there now. That's 2 wins in the last year. And, I think he's realized, and and he used to not smile a lot. He's smiling, he's enjoying what he's doing, which I think is so important in life and in everything you do. If you don't enjoy something you do, you're not going to be successful in it. Right.
So, I think that was like one of the big things. Lou Holtz is a really good friend of mine. He lives here in the community, and we've been friends. He was at my wedding back in '99. And
oh my gosh.
He loves Kevin. So he's always texting. And, but he said to me, he says, man, Kevin never smiles. So I said, all right, well, I'm going to have you talk to him about smiling and enjoying it. And he's been unbelievable with that. And he's talking to him a couple times. We've done some, Kevin, when we were at the Open where Jordan Spieth won in Washington that year, I got a phone call from him Saturday night. It was like 9:00 at night. It's 12 o'clock back. I go, what are you doing up? He goes, oh, we were at the club, and, he's joking around. My wife is mad at me. I'm back having, smoking my pipe on the back, drinking a glass of wine. And, the next morning I wake up and I got an email from one of my friends there. His house burned down in the middle of the night.
What?
And his house literally burned down in the middle of the night at 2:00 in the morning. When they were at the club that night, his house got hit by lightning. And when he got back into the house at that night, it was hot in there. So he turned the air conditioning on. well, it should have been hot anyway. But anyway, supposedly it ignited the fire, or the fire was burning, but it ignited the flames, and his
Oh
house
my
burned down. And
gosh.
the security guard was driving. He saw the flames up, and thank God he was still awake. He got his wife up. They got out. So he was renting this condo right by the driving range. So he's like, I gotta take Kevin. I want to show him, this whole visualization thing. So me, Kevin, and Lou were in his bedroom. It was totally pitch dark, and he was going through like a golf course and how you visualize this and visualize that, and hitting every single shot. And it was, I mean, I thought it was awesome. Kevin thought it was good. He got a little bit out of it, but that's the kind of stuff that Lou is. I mean, he wants to help, and he'll do anything for the members here,
Yeah.
and he'll do anything for anybody. He's just the best. So
That's incredible.
it's incredible that the people that I call them Team Na. We're called Team Na because they're all part of the success. And the biggest thing that I can do is introduce Kevin to people that can help him.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it might just be one little thing, which could be the missing link of winning or finishing second or third.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, so
That's incredible.
it's good stuff.
Well, Kenny, this has been amazing. Thank you so much. So are you ready for our quick 9?
Yeah, I am. Absolutely.
All right,
Let's rock and
perfect.
roll. I might not be very good at it, but let's go.
No, you're good. This will not be any scarier than anything you just went through. So you're good.
Okay.
All right. So what was your most memorable win?
Charles Schwab Challenge.
Good answer. Good
what
answer.
else could I say?
Who is the funniest caddy on tour?
Oh, wow. I'm going to go with Kip Henley.
Okay. Who would you prefer to skip around with?
Skip around with?
Yeah, you're like, oh, we just got paired with so-and-so. Yeah, I'm going to call in sick today.
Oh, I've never called in sick. I've never been late. I've never missed a day of work. Wow, you're killing me. You're throwing me under the bus, too.
You don't have to answer.
Hillary Clinton.
Oh.
I'm kidding. I'm joking. That was a joke. I wouldn't do that to somebody. Can't do it. Nobody.
What is your handicap?
Now my golf game, I literally barely play at all anymore. I was a 2 when I first started working for Kevin. Now I'm like a 12 or a 13.
Okay, so you don't get out much.
No,
that's all right. That's all right.
No,
hey,
good.
You're out there all the time, like you said. There's more to life than just golf and pizza and red wine. So we understand.
Yeah.
You talked about a few of your preferred courses and tournaments. What is your favorite tournament or course to play or walk?
The Open Championship, wherever it's at.
Okay. That'll be a good one this year.
Yes, it will be. I'm looking so forward to it. I played it once, so I'm really.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. How many flags do you have?
Flags as in from the 18th hole?
Yeah.
As the winning? 30.
Yep. 30. So this was your big 3-0. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, I told Kevin, I says, once I get to years more than flags, I'm retiring. So you better get in gear and run to the last. So I'm above the 30 threshold. So we got to win a couple more times. So
that's awesome. So when you're playing, obviously this would not count for a Saturday or Sunday, but on a Wednesday or Thursday, or like a Thursday, Friday, do you prefer the first tee time or the last tee time? I
like early late. Oh, you talking about me playing, or are you talking about Kevin playing?
Kevin playing.
I like early late. So early Thursday, late Friday.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then who would you want to, if you could play around with anyone, dead or alive, who do you want to play with?
Hubert Green.
Did you play with him?
I worked for him for 6 years.
I know, but did you ever play for him?
Yeah, we've played together. He
That's
passed
awesome.
away a year ago, so
I did see that.
Yeah. So that would be the guy.
And then what is your favorite place in the world to travel?
Wow, we're going there next week. Pebble Beach. I love the United States of America. There's nowhere better.
That's awesome. Well, Kenny, I appreciate it, man. You were the best, and I can't wait to continue to watch you and Kevin dominate this year. How can everyone listening find you online and continue the conversation with you?
Oh, yeah. KHarms27 on Instagram.
Awesome.
Or you can friend me on Facebook. I pretty much accept everybody.
Good to know. Good to know. So where does the 27 come from? Can you share?
August 27th, I was born.
Oh, perfect. Hey, there you go. So you're not a Leo then. What are you?
I'm a Virgo.
You're a Virgo. Okay. I'm at the beginning of August, so I'm a Leo. So that's awesome.
Nice.
Well, Kenny, it has been my greatest pleasure. I really appreciate it. And I will look forward to sharing you with the world very soon. Thank you, Amy. I look forward to our next time. It's going to be hopefully soon with another win. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Have a great one. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as I enjoyed recording it. Let me know your favorite thing about today's episode and tag me on Instagram at Golfish Podcast or at Miss Amy Goodman. If you liked today's episode, please be sure to subscribe, rate, review, and share. See you next week.